Hi folks, how are you doing? Let's see more interesting games from the Tromsø chess Olympiad. In the round number 10, we saw an interesting American battle between USA and Argentina. And on the first board of that team match, we had the world famous Nakamura, 27-87, super class chess player, playing against Fernando Peralta with black pieces, a really solid and classic GM with rated 2574 right now. I had a chance to see him in an open tournament, winning that tournament a couple of years ago. Very solid and strong player. So there we go. Nakamura plays 1b3, the Larsen opening. His favorite choice, I think, to play his worldly famous bullet and blitz games on the internet. So we're gonna see some interesting opening. d5, bishop to b2, and bishop g4. Looking really weird. I must confess I hadn't seen this move ever, but it seems there is some amount of theory about it. And its logic, I guess, is that e3, which is a rather typical move that white usually wants to play in the Larsen opening, is now of course impossible, and this is kind of provoking white into committing some kingside pawns. So white does with h3 after bishop h5. Now Nakamura goes d3, probably this knight will go there as the bishop is already developed on b2. We had c5 and knight to d2, knight c6, and now knight gf3. Now if bishop takes, there is no doubled pawns, both knights protect themselves. And f6, controlling important squares, mainly the e5 square, trying to go for e5. White plays c4, and this is very natural here, d4, with a very well supported crumper here on d4, strong pawn, which among other things is restricting a lot this bishop of b2. What is supposed to be the pride of white's position in this opening is now like hitting the wall, so interesting d4 this one. Nakamura plays g3 to fianchetto his other bishop, and Peralta plays e5 with a very nice looking pawn structure here for black. Bishop to g2, knight to h6, a3, a5, closing this queen side, stopping white from having any possibility of a future b4. And here, I mean, it's always good to try to take some time and improve a horrible looking piece when you have one, and that applies moreover in closed positions where development and fast tactical sequences are not that easy to find. Now bishop c1, an absolutely good move here, relocating the piece, as in b2 the bishop was doing absolutely nothing but staring at the wall here on d4. Peralta keeps moving his pawns, f5, maybe looking for some early chances to blast in the center with e4, or try to bring pieces to try to take advantage of white's somehow weird development. Now knight h2, bishop e7, and knight from d to f1. Now this bishop is ready to take on h6. Of course it would be a good relief for white, but black doesn't allow it. Knight goes back to f7, and Nakamura tries g4 here, supported by this pawn, supported by the knight. Well, he tries to get something going at least. Bishop back to g6, and knight g3, attacking f5 now, and finally getting somehow his pieces into the game, more or less having some development, although this bishop on c1 has been moved to b2, then back to c1. Well, it's not looking that bad now for black. Still some artificial, but seems a playable position. Here, knight to d6. It was another option to consider, maybe a little bit committing. Positionally was to play f4. Now the problem for black, or annoying for black, it could be that white has a couple of interesting square for his knight go to f4, probably e4 a better one. Light squares may be a little bit weak with this bishop being strong there, but anyway, this was a possibility, I guess. So knight d6 is what Peralta plays. G takes, knight takes, bishop d5 is played here, a good move because all of a sudden this bishop is a very strong piece, not allowing black to castle, putting the rook on the open file, so kind of restricting black's plans. Peralta takes on g3, f takes g3. Now this white's kingside looking dubious with this the dark square weaknesses, and if it was white to play, still white could try to castle and wouldn't be in a bad position, I think. But now Peralta says, well, I can't castle short, but you can't either. Stops white from castling with rook f8, interfering here on f1. Knight to f3. Peralta goes e4 here, maybe a little bit over ambitious, but complicating matters a little bit. Certainly black has more space, maybe can allow himself to play like this. After pawn takes, queen c7 is Fernando's idea. He wants to attack g3, of course, which is very vulnerable. But of course bishop f4 comes very natural. Now bishop d6, and Nakamura plays e3. Just going for this advanced pawn, trying to get his last pawn involved. Fernando Peralta here castles long, which is basically not that great of a move. We may call it a mistake, as this is giving Hikaru some practical chances to get active with the move knight to g5, suddenly threatening a fork here on e6, a great fork. This is getting very imbalanced and tactical with queen e7. Black is relying on his centralized pieces on the fact that white still has his king in the center. But there, as we're gonna see, Hikaru is going to solve his problem, this tiny problem for him very soon, not giving black much counterplays. Knight d6 right away was what probably black was relying on, and here there was some counter chances for black with bishop takes f4, e takes, and now taking on e4, attacking the rook and opening the e file for the queen to be important here on e7. But now Nakamura can simply castle, get the king out of the center, and now black loses the track of the game. He plays d takes e3, but first an intermediate move, check on g4 with the queen, king b8, and now finally this knight executes the threat, going on e6, forking both rooks, and now white has a much better position. His development problems from the opening are over. His king is safe, his bishops are well placed, the knight is a good piece. So black is in a tough position here. Knight to e5, attacking the queen, but the queen goes back to e2, controlling d3. Bishop takes e4 is what Peralta plays here, trying to complicate things, go for tactical melee. Of course, if bishop takes here, the knight on d6 is hanging, but he just takes on e3 with the queen. Bishop takes d5, c takes d5, and still there is this fork on these rooks, and black is forced to give up the exchange. He decides to take on f4, at least creates some weaknesses here, and goes rook e8, improving his kind of control of the e file, although this knight is very strong. Rook a f1, white has lots of factors to be very happy with this strong knight on e6, the control of the f file, double rooks. This probably is already gone. Peralta played queen d7, but after rook e4 strong move, he just resigned. As white is getting in, white has some tactical threats here. Let's say if something like b6, which is what the engine suggests, white is just getting two pieces for his rook and getting an advantage of a knight here, which is absolutely crushing. Otherwise, if the knight tries to go away, for instance, going to g6, white could take simply on c5, and now there is an attack against this rook. The queen is under fire, so after rook e4, 32 moves, there was basically nothing to do for black, and Hikaru Nakamura won another game in this Olympiad, I think giving his team from USA the victory in this match against Argentina. Thanks for watching.